It was separation Saturday across the Big Ten. Lots of blowouts, but that doesn't mean we didn't learn a thing or two about the good teams and the not so good teams. Live version Saturday night. Locked On Big Ten starts now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, welcome to Locked On Big Ten live on a Saturday night. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Of course, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And we do it regularly every weekday, Monday through Friday. But we like to go live right now, give you the immediate post-game reaction to everything that took place in the Big Ten. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Can talk about the separation of the haves and the have-nots today. Not a single close game in the Big Ten today. Plus, we'll have the best of the rest. There were some good observations and our first look ahead to Week 6, because next week there are some awesome matchups in the Big Ten. Be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as it comes out each and every week as soon as it becomes available. All right, I thought we would start taking a look at the Penn State Northwestern game, because every game was a humongous blowout. This might have been the best game. It was actually tied at 10. You got to give Northwestern a little bit of credit here. Penn State and Northwestern tied at 10, but after that, Penn State did what Penn State was supposed to do, and they ended up winning the game 41-13. But Penn State was completely out of sync in the first half. And I give Northwestern a lot of credit for that. Passion crowd there at Northwestern. And, Drew Allar did manage to throw a touchdown pass and ran for another in this game. But Allar, much like his only other, and I told you about this in our podcast this past week. I said, watch out for Allar on the road. He's only had one road start before. It was a couple weeks ago at nearby Illinois. Didn't look all that spectacular. It didn't have to be all that spectacular against Illinois or Northwestern, but he was only 18 of 33 through the air today for 189 yards. Nick Singleton did what he needed to do, 80 yards and a score, also caught a touchdown pass in this game as well. But in the end, it was the Penn State defense that really was too strong in this. They had 7 sacks in this game today. One of those sacks knocked out Wildcat quarterback Ben Bryant, knocked him out of the game. He landed on his right shoulder. We hope he's going to be okay, but it didn't look too great at the time. So 7 sacks, 12 tackles for loss for Penn State, and defensive tackle Zane Durant had 3 of those tackles for loss. And Daquan Hardy pulled in an interception as well and returned it 34 yards. So a lot of great stuff on defense, while, again, the first half, the Penn State offense took a little while to get going. But they got this game out of the way. They got a tune-up game against UMass coming up next. And actually, they have a bye first. They got a bye after this. Then they got the tune-up on the 14th against UMass. And then that's when it starts to get real. Penn State and Ohio State on the 21st. That is going to be a humongous game. Another game that I thought had some interesting storylines, but turned out to be a big blowout. That was Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan wins this game 45-7. We did a deep dive into this game earlier this week on our Locked On Big Ten podcast. In case you missed it, you can go back and check it out. We thought maybe this game might have some of the same traits as the Rutgers game the week before, where, Rutgers is a tough team, tough in the trenches. Maybe they hang around for a while. That was not the case here. This thing was over by halftime. Michigan was up 28-0. J.J. McCarthy passed for 2 touchdowns to Roman Wilson. That's 8 touchdowns for Roman Wilson so far this season, by the way. J.J. ran for another. And again, not much out of Nebraska today, as this one was over early. And the Wolverines, by the way, they came in this game with the number 1 scoring defense in the country at under 6 points per game, and they were this close to a shutout. They did give up a touchdown, a breakaway touchdown with 4:17 to go in this game. It was under 5 minutes. I do remember that. Otherwise, they would have had a shutout. But so they give up the 7 spot. And McCarthy in this one, he didn't need to put up big numbers. He just was methodical throughout the day. 12 of 16, 156 yards. Gave away to Indiana transfer Jack Tuttle, as a matter of fact, who got some playing time as well. So there was that going on today for Michigan, pretty much doing whatever they wanted to do in this football game. The Wolverines running game, they totaled a season high 249 yards. Blake Corum, 16 rushes, 74 yards. Meanwhile, the Huskers, who led the Big Ten in rushing coming into this game, partly because that's all they do. They really don't throw the ball. They were held to a season low 106 yards in this one. Again, this Michigan defense is just lights out. Oh, and did I mention? No, I didn't. Michigan had 0 penalties in the entire game. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Have you? I don't ever think I've seen a team play so flawlessly that they had 0 penalties in the entire game. So perfection for Michigan today. Meanwhile, on the other side, as you know, the storyline there with the quarterback, Jeff Sims out, Heinrich Harburg, we've talked a lot about him. He's really been playing a lot better. He had to throw a lot more today, 14 to 25, 199 yards, did throw an interception. Yeah, he's always among their top 1 or top 2 leading rushers these past couple of weeks, and he rushed for -2 yards. So not happening today. And Anthony Grant, who was their 3rd string running back, but 2 guys ahead of him have been injured. He rushed for, I think, 135 yards last week, 6 carries for 16 yards. I mean, Michigan just absolutely shut these guys down. Just a phenomenal job. Anyway, those were kind of the 2 big games, if you will, and we're going to talk about all the rest. I want to hear from you. You see me on Twitter at Talk Big Ten. You saw a moment ago, I had a crawl on the bottom of our website, talkbig10.com. That's with the number 10. Love to hear from you there. And, of course, you can hit us up on YouTube throughout the week as well with comments. Always welcome those. So we're going to get into that. There were some interesting things I did see that I do absolutely want to talk about as we continue with all that. Our live version here on Saturday night of Locked On Big Ten as we continue. I want to tell you about Neutrophil. Did you know that about 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Neutrophil. Neutrophil is, in fact, there's a supplements right here. See, right there on live podcasting Saturday night. There we go. The product right there. Neutrophil is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. It's all good. You can go to Neutrophil.com/men. You can take their hair health wellness quiz that they have there. And Neutrophil supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting root causes of thinning, such as stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, metabolism. It's all related. So here's what you need to do. And by the way, this works. There's a clinical study. 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months of taking Neutrophil men's hair growth supplements. So take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Neutrophil is offering our listeners here $10 off with the first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Neutrophil.com/men and enter the promo code Locked On College. Very easy to remember. Locked On College. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Neutrophil for healthier hair. Neutrophil.com/men, spelled Neutrafol.com/men, and enter the promo code Locked On College. That's Neutrophil.com/men, promo code Locked On College. So again, the blowouts continue. However, let's look at the Louisiana-Minnesota game today. Minnesota won this game over the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns 35-24. It was the closest game of the day in the Big Ten. It really was. And the Gophers are coming off that horrible loss last week at Northwestern. They were up by 21 points, blew that lead, lost in overtime. So they wanted a bounce-back game today. Maybe Louisiana was the perfect opponent for them, but not one they could take lightly for sure. They are also Minnesota without running back Darius Taylor, who, if you watch this podcast regularly, we talk about him a lot. He's an amazing freshman out of Detroit. Suffered a leg injury last week against Northwestern, and he ranks second nationally in running throughout the season, 133 yards per game. And he won 3 straight Big Ten Freshman of the Week honors. I thought he was going to run the table. Weeks 2, 3, and 4. Freshman of the Week, Freshman of the Week, Freshman of the Week. It was fantastic. We talk about him a lot on this podcast. So hopefully he gets healthier soon. And also during this podcast, we talk about Minnesota. To be honest, we've been a little critical of their quarterback, Ethan Kaliakmanis. Ethan, he's a really nice guy, soft-spoken guy. Team seems to like him and all that. He really needed to step up. Well, today he did. 12 of 14 for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that was pretty good. And the Minnesota defense started to kind of look like its old self again in the second half of this football game as well. So that's good that they're getting better because they got a big test coming up as Minnesota gets ready for Michigan next week. That is on a nationally televised game. That's the battle for the little brown jug that has gone to the winner of this game every year since 1903. That's at stake here. So Minnesota better get better really fast. Indiana at Maryland. Not a good showing for the Hoosiers. Great showing for Maryland. The Terps improved to 5-0. This is another team we focused on this podcast, Locked On Big Ten, this past week. Again, after you're done watching tonight, go ahead and check them out. They're out there from the past few days. Very easy to find. So Maryland wins this game 44-17 over the Hoosiers. Taulia Tagovailoa scored 6 touchdowns in this game. He threw for 5, along with 352 yards in the win. And now that they're all good here at 5-0, their next game is the biggest game of the year for them so far. Ohio State coming up next. Of course, the undefeated Buckeyes just they had a bye this week, so they're resting up and they're preparing for Maryland. This is important for Maryland because Maryland wants to be in the conversation at 5-0. They want to be in the same breath as Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Maryland. They're right there. They think they're right there. They think their time is now. Well, now this is the week. Kind of had an easy roll into it with the schedule. Now their schedule gets really hard here in the back half. And if they want to prove something to everybody, this Ohio State game is going to be a huge game for them on Saturday. We will spend a lot of time on that on this Locked On Big Ten podcast on this upcoming week. So check us out. By the way, if you're just discovering us here live over the weekend, it's one of the reasons we're doing it, hopefully to get your attention. We release an audio version of this podcast in the wee hours in the morning. The YouTube video version, same version, it's just video, comes out about 6 o'clock in the morning. So we're there every day, like clockwork for you. And I hope if you're just checking us out here tonight, maybe you'll check us out during the week as well. We've gone in from June to September from 1,200 subscribers to like 3,600. So we're growing really fast, and we'd love it if you check us out if you're new to us here tonight. Also, Illinois at Purdue this afternoon. Ryan Walters, remember the former defensive coordinator at Illinois, now the head coach of Purdue. Boilermakers finally got their first home win of the season. They hadn't won in front of the home crowd. And they had a 21-point third quarter explosion in this game as they beat the Fighting Illini 44-19. Yet another blowout. But good one for Purdue and a lot of question marks for Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini. And Wagner was at Rutgers, and as expected, I told you Rutgers had a 99% chance of winning this game. They won big, 52-3. Actually, I thought it was going to be by a bigger margin than that. I thought they were going to get in the 60s, but 52-3 in this one. But more blowouts. Meanwhile, as we speak right now, of course, we're live here on Saturday night, and I can tell you that I'm just changing something on the screen here, if you don't mind. The game going on right now live at Kinnick Stadium. It's a blackout at Iowa, and this is almost like a must win for both Michigan State and Iowa. Again, it's going on right now. You got all the Mel Tucker stuff going on with Michigan State this week, a lot of distractions. And, of course, Iowa got shut out last week at Penn State. This is a team that needs to score points in order to save the offensive coordinator's job, who happens to be the son of the head coach. There's storylines galore in this game. So if you check that out, maybe that'll be the first game of the day to not be a blowout. Maybe. But we will talk about it a lot at length on Monday's podcast on this show as well, especially if it's a close game. So, again, feel free to check us out during the week as well. I want to thank everybody who normally checks us out for making us your first listen here on Locked On Big Ten each and every day. And also during the football season on Fridays on this Locked On Big Ten channel and all the other Locked On College channels, we do a Locked On College Football Kickoff live show. It's 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern from 11 to 1 Eastern time. I'm on it every week for a couple minutes promoting the Big Ten. All of our guys are on it. It's a big production. So feel free to check that out every Friday on this Locked On Big Ten channel and all the other Locked On College channels as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of great games coming up Saturday next week. Very important games in the Big Ten. We will take our first look at that next on Locked On Big Ten. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what brings your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, everything you can think of. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, they have it all. eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, we want to take this first look coming up at the weekend with the Big Ten schedule. It's getting serious now. We're at the midway point. It is hard to believe. But this week, this past weekend here, the one we're in right now, no Friday night game for the first time this year in the Big Ten. But we're back to having some Friday night lights. In fact, Friday night, it is Nebraska at Illinois. That is at 8 o'clock on FS1. Both of these teams need a win to kind of figure things out. Nebraska, and it seems like Illinois is regressing a little bit. Nebraska's been trying to find its way. That's what's going on. That's what is at stake Friday night at 8 o'clock on FS1. Saturday, as we mentioned, this is the big one we're circling. Maryland at Ohio State, two undefeated teams. That's the big noon game on Fox. So clear the schedule. Check that out. Of course, we'll go live next Saturday too, as well. Also, at the same time, Rutgers is at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's coming off that bye and their win over Purdue last week. And Howard is at Northwestern at 3 o'clock. You know what? Good for Northwestern. You schedule Howard. You just got them getting beat by Penn State. You've had all the problems, the hazing of the offseason and everything. And you win this game against Howard, and you've tripled your win total from last year. And I think if they do that, I think you really got to consider interim head coach David Braun keeping that job. He's got those guys playing hard and fighting hard, especially if you saw the first half today against Penn State. Purdue is at Iowa at 3:30. That is going to be a knockdown battle. A lot of black and gold on both sides on that one. And that's at Kinnick Stadium, a day game. And Michigan at Minnesota for the Little Brown Jug. That is a 7:30 game on NBC and Peacock. So another great slate. Again, we're going to cover all these and preview all these throughout the week, Monday through Friday. Every morning, a new podcast of Locked On Big Ten is out, both audio and video version here on YouTube. And I hope you absolutely check that out. In the meantime, feel free to interact with me. You can hit me up on Twitter at TalkBig10 with the number 10. You see our website scroll here on the bottom, talkbig10.com. Check that out, our new website. That's with the number 10, talkbig10.com. Everything we do just funnels right through that. And we also invite you, if you are new, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to Locked On Big Ten. I'm asking you to do me a solid favor. Would really, really appreciate it. It's easy. It's free. You click it on, and boom, you're in this Big Ten club. So you can subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app and get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as it's available each and every day. Also going to invite you to also check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. In the meantime, have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll be back at it. Can't wait till our next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.